good evening to you, and welcome to the dynamic television show Atlanta Live, featured right here on WATC TV channel 57. It's Veterans Day, okay? And of course, the official holiday is tomorrow. It's Saturday. It's November the 11th. Happy Veterans Day to all of our men and women that have served in our armed forces. I'm your host for tonight, Shana Thornton, joined by the one and only Shawn Mitchell. And we have a versatile lineup for you that's aimed to inspire and motivate. And do know that the programming here on this network aims to bring awareness and education. And tonight, I think you're going to be impressed with our guest lineup. Shawn, do share with our listeners and our viewers what's going on.
Absolutely, Shana. As you said, it's going to be a very, very exciting lineup. First of all, we have a young woman who's going to share with us a wonderful or an incredible testimony of having lived under a bridge. She was homeless, had addiction, and she has come through.
Wow.
We are also going to hear from a wonderful couple with regard to marriage ministry and how they keep it together and how they're going to help everyone else. And then in honor of Veterans Day, we will hear from a veteran.
Wow, so we have a full gamut for you. You've got to stay with us. You know, I'm not quite sure what you're going through right now. Maybe it's something you're saying, well, it's not that major. I don't want to bother anyone with it. Maybe it's something lingering in the back of your head. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's finances. Maybe it's something in your relationship. Maybe it's your marriage, something with your kids. Our prayer room is open right now. There's nothing too minute, nothing too gigantic that they don't want to hear. We know that healing is possible, and you can do that. And prayer has some power to it. Tonight's testimonies are going to prove that and remind you and confirm that God is here for you. And Shawn, I know we've got a great music lineup, right?
Absolutely, and we're going to hear from them in a moment. It's a wonderful, wonderful evening of celebratory music.
I know. And speaking of music, know that the music tonight is live, okay? It's not pre-recorded like some other television shows. We've got live performances that are going to keep you on your feet, motivating. And our very first musical band, well, they're performed really all over the country, okay? But they're with us tonight. And it's a world debut here on Atlanta Live. So get ready to jam. Feel the Spirit of the Lord is with you, because this band is ready to share their testimony, their ministry, their platform through the ministry of music. That's right. And they know that it can inspire and it can enlighten your life to be better, because it reminds us that God is real and He's with you no matter what you are going through. So as I mentioned, that prayer line is open right now. That's there for your spiritual needs, whatever it's going through. The testimonies tonight, Shawn, of our guests are also going to really feed whatever we're going through as well. And of course, live music. That's the final component to tonight. And you're going to be ready to, I'm telling you, to listen to something that is powerful. But before we get started, I want you to message your family or friend right now and let them know that Atlanta Live is live tonight. And of course, that band, I said the world debut, Zack, Landry, and PhaZe. And the song they're performing is I Got It, I Got It.
Well, praise the Lord, everybody. Come on, clap your hands. We about to make this happen right here. Come on, let me see you clap your hands like this with us. The title song says, I've got it in me. Here we go. I've got it in me.
I've got it in me.
The understanding
and the power gave me.
Said He appointed me. He appointed me to do a great work.
To do a great work in this new Christian life.
Said He destined me.
He destined me
to be an example.
To be an example in the life for this time.
Let's go back to the top. Said I've got it in me. Said
I've got it in me. The strength and confidence He stored in me.
Hey, said I've got it in me.
I've got it in me.
The understanding.
The understanding and the power gave me.
Said He appointed me. He appointed me
To do a great work in this new Christian life.
Said He destined me.
He destined me
to be an example.
to be an example in the life for this time.
Let's go, friends. Said He gave me life. He gave me life. Strength. Full activity of my limbs. He gave it all. I've got it all.
I've got it all.
Said He gave me life.
He gave me life.
Strength.
Strength.
Full activity.
Full activity of my
He gave it all. praise your name tonight, Lord. Right here, let's go to church. Hey, I've got it.
I've got it.
I've got it.
I've got it.
Ooh.
I've got it.
I've got it in me.
I've got it in me.
I've got it.
I've got it.
I've got it.
I've got it.
Oh,
I've got it.
I've got it in me.
I've got it in me.
Make some noise.
Amazing music, my. Oh, I got it. And I'm telling you, if you enjoyed that musical selection, and I know you did sitting at home, I sure did, but stay with us because they're going to be back on with more live music, feeding your soul. And speaking of feeding your soul, we mentioned at the top of the segment that it's Veterans Day weekend, and it's an important time to honor those who served in our armed forces because they've made some personal and professional sacrifices as well as committed to community service. And right now, we're so honored to introduce a gentleman that knows about that. He is a leader in the religious community and also a 3-decade veteran, or he served for 30 years in the U.S. Army. We're talking about Bishop Irvine Bryer. Welcome to Atlanta Live.
It is my pleasure to be here with both of you this evening.
Excited to have you on. Now, we mentioned it's Veterans Day weekend. What a great time to really spotlight all the awesome things and that our veterans have given us as a society to allow us to have our freedoms. I know being a veteran is very personal to you, and you also have a message for those who have served.
The message is keep on serving and be strong. I come from my great-great-grandfather was a Buffalo soldier.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and we're pulling on that to make sure we get that out, because our veterans need to have some roots, some part of roots, regardless of where they came from. That makes them stronger, and that's what I tried to do in the years that I served, both in Vietnam,
Okay.
9/11, or here in Georgia and then mobilized into Iraq. It's to say to the young men and women that serve and the elders, because there are a lot of people who were coming at the twilight into their 60s.
Yes.
I retired at 65.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
And I know when you said you served in Vietnam, of course, we've seen the dynamics of those who've served come back from war. It wasn't always the reception we would have liked it to have been, right? And I know my father also served during the Vietnam conflict, and he talks about that. Where you see it now in our country, it seems to be a great reception, giving the veterans, giving those active duty soldiers the respect they deserve. But you served during a time during the Vietnam conflict where it wasn't always that way, right?
It wasn't nice. As we returned, many of the veterans returning, first of all, they had some serious problems that they weren't ready to deal with. They used to call it shell shock. Now we call it PTSD.
Okay.
And I'm going to say some more about that later. But people didn't respect us. I got spat upon when I was at Grand Central waiting to take a train to go up to Beacon, New York, 60 miles north. Never shared it with my family or anyone. I just said, I'll deal with it. I'm going to go back to school, get myself together. And that's what I spent my time doing. But I found a lot of veterans spent their time doing other things.
Okay.
And one of them is homelessness. The other one is drugs.
Yes.
So there are a lot of problems that we did not deal with coming out, and was trying not to repeat that now. Trying, but still, we haven't caught up yet.
You mentioned that some soldiers who've served active duty and saw conflicts and wars came back with PTSD.
Yes.
And we've come to a journey in that here in this country, because I know when World War I hit, they didn't really understand it. I think
Right.
there were even some physicians who denied it. Now we understand there's a term. We know that individuals need to be treated for that. Veterans, but also those who have not served in the military can also suffer from it
Right.
as well. I know you say to really be healed with that process, it is also a spiritual growth as
Yes,
well
it
with
is.
Christ.
I believe that part of conflict is that we are not as rooted as we should be, like when I grew up or some others around my age. We talk about the church and it sounds the same. It was part of our life. It was our society, our social values, regardless of our denomination. The town I grew up in, if I wanted to go to play ball, I could go to the Catholic Youth Center. I
Okay.
could go over to the yeshiva and hang out with my Jewish brothers and sisters. But our society has become more fragmented. We spend more time dealing with who's done what, who owns what. I heard earlier tell them about millennials, and that's a great struggle for me now in my own congregation, trying to get to 18 to 40 to get more grounded. I mean, they're smart, they look good, but time on their side, not your side. And so that's them. But the folk that have been well, let me put it this way, who have been in the war zone.
Yes.
And then come back, they're still in the war zone. And so on a mission tonight, PTSD is a part of me.
Wow.
Okay?
Okay.
And I had it kind of tied up and put inside and tucked it away.
I see.
And then came 9/11. We're going down and we see people jumping out of a building,
My.
100-something stories up, and we're covered with soot. And I said, what is going on? I felt something different. All of a sudden,
Okay.
I was being pulled back to Vietnam. And I said, I don't want to go there. That's an ugly place. So I
see.
tried to push it back again. I even had one of my soldiers want to commit suicide
Oh, my.
that had nothing to do with anything other than their own life, what was going on at home.
I see.
And we have 22 soldiers a day committing suicide.
My.
And they've never been deployed, never been in a war zone.
Okay.
So a lot of that has to do with what's happening in our society.
Absolutely.
Take the church in Texas. Did that strike you? Did that pull a heartstring?
Horrible.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Horrible.
Absolutely.
Heartbreaking.
All right. Pastor loses his 14-year-old daughter and his wife, and now they're saying they're going to demolish the building and then build somewhere else. All around, all over the place, bodies, over 26 people shot, others. And so this is the war zone now. And for a lot of people who have been in there, younger people, 25, 35 age group, they don't have the resilience that we had. They didn't have that anchor which the church brought in. I was listening to the song just a few moments ago, and that's where I draw a lot of strength from. And when we were growing up, it was maybe not as praise, if you will, or worship style, but it's still, what a fellowship, what a joy divine,
Okay.
leaning on everlasting line. Songs like that we could pull to and can relate to, but there's a disconnect with that now.
Well, there's not one solution, I'm sure, but how can we bring that back? How can we bring that anchor back for young people as well as society? Because it is very splintered.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm so glad to have a friend of mine named Reverend Alonzo Taylor and his beautiful wife and their 3 children coming to work with us in our church, because they're in that age group and they've done well. They're school teachers. He teaches music. She's got some CDs out, and the boys sing. And I have enjoyed the 10 years I've known them.
Okay.
Well, not all the boys were there. They have a solid family structure. Grandma living with them, mother. So they, remember that? You used to sit at the table and eat, and you didn't get that little funny thing that you, hello, I'm home.
Cell phone,
Right.
yes.
Oh, that one. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, if I go out and you pick up a cell phone, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, excuse me, I have to leave. What do you mean leave? I'm not going to sit there and you entertain yourself with a cell phone and I'm taking you
Wow.
to dinner. But they think nothing of, just rolling through. And I can't. So they're disconnected from the realities that are around them. They get off from work, maybe go shopping, spend some money, book a trip. The only way to do it is we have to gently, we can't push them, pull them back. So that's one way we're going to do it, by introducing them to, and I told him worship's going to be important for
Okay.
me. The other thing that's a reality is we're looking at the community. We're identifying people through giving out food and gently used clothes. And people are coming
Yes.
in, and they don't all look like me.
Okay.
And probably 60% of them are older people who have just been left by the wayside. And so now there's a different group, and they talk to our young people.
I see.
And they tell them, you should really like this. You got a pool table here, bought it at the pawn shop. We got a ball, bought it at the pawn shop, and tables, and we make everything come to pass
Yes.
by saying, we don't have to spend a lot of money to get together and share.
So you're saying connection is key, being engaged and allowing all generations to really reach out to
Right.
each other. And I think that's powerful.
Right.
Someone may be watching us right now in the heart of Atlanta and they say, well, Bishop Bryer, I hear what you're saying, but they're feeling perhaps empty right now. Maybe they're not feeling connected. Maybe there's some family conflict going on. We know families are not perfect. They have dynamics that can pull you away as time go on. What would you say right now to that young man that's listening? He wants to connect again to God. He wants to have a relationship with his mother and father, but there's some things that have been done in the past that's preventing that.
First thing that he has to do is realize that none of us are perfect.
Okay.
And then be able to let somebody, mine is, come here, let me talk to you. And I said, do you mind if I do that? I said, no, I'm not going to hurt you. I said, my dad used to hug me every day.
Wow.
How you doing? What's going on?
see.
And I said, and I can't replace what you've gone through, but I'll tell you this, if you can sit down and talk to me, come on, what do you want? Go to the refrigerator and get a soda, or you don't want a soda, get water. I said, we even have ginger beer, you know, from the West Indies. He said, I never had one of those before. I said, okay, you take one home too. And he's looking for, I said, no, you just take your hand and turn it and, you know, and tap him with the bottle. And I sit there and I said, what do you do in your spare time? He said, I wish I had spare time. I said, what do you mean? So I'm looking for a job. I didn't finish school.
Okay.
Well, I know a GED program. Well, let's talk to Zack. I think you know
Yes.
about that.
Yeah.
I said, would you be willing to do that? Well, you know, I've been in school and I've tried. I said, but let's put what's behind you and think about, tell me
Powerful.
about some things that you want.
Powerful.
What would you like to do? Where do you want to go? And sit back for a minute. Don't Bishop, you have a phone call. Just hold it. I'm talking to a young man who I'm very interested in. And he said, you didn't take that phone call. I said, you're more important than that phone call.
Wow.
And I think that's what we need. It sounds like you're a wonderful mentor. We need more mentors. Absolutely. To bridge the generations.
We had, in a unit I was in for the last 6 years, 8,900 soldiers from Maine to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
5 brigades. And all of the chaplains that came in, my interview was this. My commander, 2-star, Major General Silverman, was watching his team, Michigan, play the Buckeyes, my son-in-law. And he said, what do you think about this, chaplain? I said, I'm sorry, sir. He said, sit down, come on, you can tell me. I said, okay, I'm terribly honest about things like that. I said, you can get your tail whipped. I said, you can't stand the heat. And he's turned it off and he said, thank you for your honesty. and that was what I wanted to hear, that we have to be honest. And so when he asked me about myself, I said, look, I came in on my 16th birthday. I had a couple of beers. I didn't know. And wound up at my neighbor's house, who called my father, and then he turned me out the door. My father said, what were you thinking? And I said, look, I'm grown. He said, oh, you are. And my father
wow.
moved his hands like that, and I threw mine up. It was a reflex. Next thing I know, I was on the floor, and my mother was laying across me saying, don't hurt him, he's our son.
Wow.
He said, if he gets up again, he's going to get more than hurt. I was so embarrassed. So when I'm talking, I talk about how I grew up.
I see.
How our parents, we had to check in. We had to get up and do that. That's another thing. I have young people who don't know how to even pull a rake over the lawn.
Wow.
So if I'm there and they come by and say, I need to talk to you, and I said, well, we can talk while we work. I don't do work like that. I said, what do you mean you don't work like that? Who does? Oh, my parents pay somebody to do my lawn.
Wow.
See, so they don't have responsibility. We used to call it the checklist
Yes.
or the duty roster. My brother and I mowed lawn, but we also did what? Wash dishes.
I see.
The girls didn't have to do lawn, but they had to make up the beds. My mother was a stay-at-home, and he worked a job and a half, my father. And I said, well, Dad, if Mom went to work, it'd be easier. He said, then I wouldn't know what to do with y'all. You'd be running wild. So the discipline of having someone who cared about you. And
Goes far.
somebody said, what do you like about some things going on? I said, well, look, there are a lot of things on television that are just entertainment. I said, but this movie called The Blue Bloods, it's the very end of it I like, where they eat together on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Engagement.
All right.
Connecting.
And they talk honestly with each other. And the grandfather, he's really the guy and the kid. So I like that. And I said, so I look for places that I talked to Anderson Cooper once, about 5 years ago, longer than that because I'd been out. And I knew his brother had committed suicide. Okay, Vanderbilt. See, people think money's everything. But this young man had some serious emotional problems. Tragedy was a part of their life. So he's reading a book with her. He jumps up, runs downstairs, runs out to the balcony, and leaps off onto the FDR Drive and's killed. Anderson's talking about it. I get on the phone. I'm out of the country, and I said, this is Chaplain Bryer. I'd like to talk to you about that program you just did. Do you think I can get a copy of the program? He said, what do you use it for? I said, I'm going to use it for my suicide. We call it assist. In other words, we can't stop suicide, but we can try to. So he said, but you sound like you believe you can. I said, the intervention for me is the Spirit of God.
Okay.
Because he said, I blew my spirit into mankind, and they became a living soul.
Wow.
And my presence is strong. And so we have to introduce that from your heart. Your sons, okay? And the little guys, we were someplace one day, and one of the guys said, come with me. And your son said, no. He said, I want you to come now. Your son said, no. And I said, wow, look at that. See,
Wow.
that's incredible because he picked up that he wanted him to go someplace, and his family, we were on the bleachers. It was at Red Oak Baptist Church.
Okay.
Okay. And I said, you okay? He said, yes. And then he went back to you. And the last time I talked to him, we were at a Women's Day program.
Wow.
Remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, such great information. I mean, listening to you, as you said, all of the inspiring words that you're sharing. We are pressed on time, and I don't want our viewers to miss out on anything else to keep this conversation going. Where can they go for more information about Crossroad Christian Church?
Crossroad Christian Church, they can get into it by calling 678-565-6188. That's the phone number.
Yes.
They can use my email address. I just tried to remember the church's email, which is irvine@bellsouth.net.
Yes.
Okay? And I give out my card freely, so
Okay.
they can talk to me. They can call, and we talk about it. And I find that one of the great things is being able to be sincere about a conversation with somebody.
That makes all the difference. You know, it's Veterans Day weekend, and they say thank a veteran. Thank you, Bishop Bryer, for your service and your commitment to the community that's continuing now. And talking about continuation, you're watching Atlanta Live right now. And we're back live on the musical set with Zack, Landry, and PhaZe. And the name of this one is I Give.
Just wanna be close to you.
Wanna be close to you.
Gotta be close to you.
Gotta be close to you.
Just wanna be close to you. Gotta be close to you.
Gotta be close to you.
Say in you. In you. I breathe. Say, oh. That's it. Say in you. Say, I live. In you. I breathe. Say, oh. Let's take it up. Here we go. Say in you. Say, I live. In you. I breathe. Say in you. I live. In you. I breathe. For God I live. For God I die. Lord, we praise you. Lord, we need you. In you. I live. In you. I breathe one more time. In you. I live. In you. I breathe. See, oh. Say, oh Lord, say,
Oh Lord,
I give.
I give my life to you.
I give.
I give myself freely,
Totally.
totally
One more time.
committed to you.
I give, say,
I give my life to you.
I give.
I give myself freely,
Totally.
totally committed to you.
Amazing music. Stay tuned in. They're going to have more for us, and we're also going to chat exclusively with them so they can tell you what motivates their musical ministry. Well, you see, our first interview already kicked off to a great start, and I hope you were encouraged. Of course, we had Bishop Irvine Bryer on with us, and he served 30 years in the U.S. Army, and he had a special message for veterans and those in the civilian world as well, wanting you to know that God certainly loves you, and no matter what you're going through, no matter how big, no matter how small, God is here for you. And we certainly want to thank and recognize all of our veterans that watch this network, WATC TV channel 57. Veterans Day is a very important day because we get to recognize those who served in the U.S. Armed Forces. And just a little fact, it initially started off as recognition for those in World War I only. But in 1954, it evolved where we now recognize all those who served in U.S. conflicts and wars domestically, and those, of course, internationally and abroad. So happy Veterans Day, and we certainly cherish all of your service. Well, right now we're going to go to the prayer room. My co-host Shawn Mitchell is there, and she's going to speak with some prayer warriors. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Shawn Mitchell, and I'm here in the prayer room this evening with Alana Lewis, and we have a number of calls coming in at this very moment. We encourage you to call. The number is 770-300-9828. We are waiting for your call. Alana, tell us what people have been calling in to pray for.
Well, Shawn, we've received various phone calls tonight, believing God to answer prayers regarding peace, protection, guidance, and increased walk in with their journey with God.
Okay, so don't put it off. And if you haven't received Jesus as your Lord and Savior Christ, call us now. If you don't know what that means, call our prayer partners to take you through the steps. Alana, do you have a scripture for us?
Well, Romans 10, verses 9 through 10 says, "If thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and shalt believe in thine heart that God has raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation." This is a scripture that leads us to salvation, and also leads sinners to forgiveness and believing in Jesus as their Lord and Savior.
Absolutely. Once again, our prayer lines are open. The number is 770-300-9828. Continue to call. We're here waiting to receive your concerns. Prayer tonight. Father, I know I'm a sinner, and I ask you to forgive me. I believe Christ died for me, and God has raised Jesus from the dead. I want to turn from my sins. Jesus, come into my heart and be my personal Lord and Savior. I promise to obey you and follow you all the days of my life. Again, at this time, we know there is a need out there, especially with everything that's going on. Please give us your call at this time. Now, back to the studio.
Welcome back, everyone. As Shawn mentioned, the prayer warriors are with us, so certainly give them a call. We'd love your feedback of tonight's edition of Atlanta Live. As you can see, I am live on the music set with the one and only Zack Landry and his group PhaZe. You know, Zack, listening to your music, I mean, it's something that's in my belly gut. I'm like, this is amazing. This is also God-filled, and I am jamming to it. I have to know, who is your inspiration for your music?
God is the only inspiration.
Oh, I love that.
That's it. He's the only inspiration.
Now, do you have any specific influences as well?
Some of James Fortune,
Okay.
we say Kurt Franklin.
I see.
Some of my biggest inspirations.
I see that. Now, I know you had a single that was released 2 years ago.
Yes,
Tell
ma'am.
us where you are on the journey of the musical world right now.
Right now, I'm getting ready to release an EP in the spring of next year.
nice.
So we're working on that, just working on some reconstruction of different songs.
I love it. Now, I know you're also a great voice, and we're going to talk about your musical group in a little second, but you also are a songwriter.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
love that. How cool is that?
It's very cool. It's something that's it's not easy to do.
I see. So like the chicken and the egg, what came first, the songwriting or your vocals?
It's very different with me. It just depends, but the vocals came with me first.
I see. So how long have you been performing?
For the past 10 years.
Wow.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
for 10 years, you've had this gift, this amazing gift.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, did you grow up singing?
Yes, I grew up singing
see.
all my life.
Wow,
Yeah,
what
grew
a
up in church.
powerful voice. Now, of
Thank
course,
you.
you're Zack Landry, but introduce us to your musical group.
Yes. Okay, so right here we have my soprano, Tiffany French.
I see.
We have my alto, Angela Gilbert here.
All right, Tiffany and
we
Angela.
have my tenor, Garen. And we
Hi,
also
Garen.
have my other alto, Sonia Blade.
Oh, wow, and I love it. And now, I know you're based in New Orleans, but you actually have vocalists that come from all over. I think Dallas
Yes.
as well.
I have my MD back here, Anthony Gardner, he's from Dallas.
Oh, wow.
And these two here from Mississippi, these two here from Louisiana, from New Orleans.
I see. So, I mean, you have a range, obviously, of vocalists. When you bring it all together, it's magical, it's spirit-led. I mean, and I'm non-musician by all means, but when you bring it together, how does it seem to be so perfect?
It just takes a lot of practice.
Okay.
A lot of meditating, consecrating, all those different things that go into one.
You mentioned a lot of consecrating, you mentioned a lot of practice. Seems like a lot of the dynamics of getting us where we need to be on our path of life.
Yes.
Right? I mean, there's
Exactly.
someone watching us right now, Zack, and maybe they're not in a great place in relationship with their child. Maybe the grandkid is not doing right in school. They're rejecting the notions they're trying to share with them. What would be your advice?
Just to stay prayed up and just stay strong and know that the last song we just sang, I give my life to you, totally committed. If you just stay focused on that path, that's the path that God can take you in, and he can take you and bless you and do what he wants to do with him.
Wow, you're a young man doing some amazing things. There are guardians and parents out there. They are dealing with young people that are not doing such great things, and they're saying, well, it's uncool, Mom, to be in the church. It's uncool to do positive music. They perhaps want to listen to other influential dynamics that aren't so positive or reinforcing the factors they want to be highlighted. What would be your advice, one, to that guardian, and second, to that young person?
Okay, well, to that guardian, that understand that, and it's something that we've been trying to preach for years, especially as independent artists. Music is universal. It's the universal language. It's not the music that makes the music, it's the lyrics that makes the music.
Okay, powerful.
Yes. So, and to that child, it's okay to listen to different types of brands of music, but you never want to take it as something that can overtake your spirit.
I see.
If it's something negative, that is.
I see, and overtake your spirit. That's a great point, because when it comes to church, maybe it comes to the club or the organizations or even the friends as parents and
Right,
guardians,
right.
we want them to hang around. You know this, being a young man. Sometimes we push that away,
Yes.
right? Well, I don't want to hang around that group. I don't want to go to church, Mom. I don't want to hear what you have to say to me. Help us parents out. Help the guardians out when the kid seems to be saying, you just don't understand me. You're from another generation, Dad. Help us out. How do we reach them?
Pretty much you have to let them go on astray by themselves. They have to be able to find their own path with God.
Okay.
And then all we can do as parents, all you can do as parents is pretty much guide them as much as you can. And then after that, you just have to let them go out on their own and be able to follow their own path.
I think you're right. I mean, sometimes we do have to let go, obviously, when people become of adult age. But letting go is more than just talking about guardianship of kids, even with situations of the past, right? I know
Yes.
for you, your music is your ministry.
Definitely.
And you minister to so many different individuals
Yes.
who you shared are still holding on to things that probably should have been let go a while ago.
Yes.
Talk us through that journey of letting go, releasing, finding peace.
Praying. Praying is definitely the key to peace. It's definitely the key to success in life, staying positive, keeping a positive surrounding,
I love that.
you know, not being around negative different people. You know, you just want to follow your own path, find you, be confident in who you are.
I love that.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, Zack Landry, you're at a great place in your life professionally and personally,
Yes.
but I'm going to ask you this hard question. If you could go back 15 years ago to that younger man, that younger version of Zack, what would you tell him? What would be your advice for him?
If I was 15 years old, oh, goodness. You know what? At that time, I was all doing my own thing. So,
So, I mean, any advice that you would give him or
stay
someone?
positive.
Okay.
Stay positive. Stay happy no matter what goes on in life, no matter what happens, no matter what kind of joy, what kind of things that happen in that certain season.
Okay.
Stay positive.
Okay, stay positive, which is not always that easy. But
No.
like you say, surround yourself with positive people.
Exactly.
But sometimes that may mean we need to dispel individuals or dynamics that aren't healthy for us.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes you have to break away certain things, especially certain bad habits that
That's
may
right.
prevent you from getting to that success in life.
That's right. And it's not what we say we do, it's what we do,
It's what we
right,
do.
Zack?
Exactly.
That is so important.
Exactly.
So tell us about the next musical track you're going to perform tonight.
The next musical track is a personal song of mine. It's called "It Can Only Get Better,"
Oh,
and
wow.
this
Oh,
song
I
is pretty
love
much
that.
just a personal testimony from me to God, and just praying and I was just saying, Lord, I just want to be better with you, Lord. You know, so that's just let them hear the lyrics of the song.
I see.
Be blessed.
I mean, so it was a personal message to God.
Yes.
Almost like you're sharing your prayer and meditation with us.
Yes, and it's definitely pretty much giving a positive note to the people as well. You know, things may not be going the way you expect them to go in life, but just knowing that it can only get better if you just trust in God and believe and have faith. He will supply and provide.
Trust in him, he will supply, certainly.
Yes.
Before you go to your piano for your final musical track, a special message right now for our veterans.
Stay prayed up.
Beautiful.
Keep God in your life at all times.
I love that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here again, a beautiful song performed by the one and only Zack Landry
Thank
and
you.
PhaZe. Stay with us.
Hallelujah. Say yeah. Yeah. It will only get say yeah. Say yeah. It will only take it up. Say yeah. Lord, we praise your name, God. It will only get say yeah. Say yeah.
Absolutely fantastic, fantastic. Shana, now we are returning with a wonderful, wonderful story, very inspirational from Miss Blossom Rogers. And does she have a testimony to share?
Wow. Well, welcome to Atlanta Live. We're excited to have you on.
Well, thank you.
And Shawn pointed out you have a powerful testimony and journey, and we want you to highlight it right now.
Well, like I tell everybody, I am not the one to gossip.
Okay.
But God is good.
All the time.
I'm telling you, God blessed me. I was on crack cocaine for 19 years.
Okay.
When you look that word up in the dictionary, it said crackhead.
Yes.
That was me.
Oh, wow.
But God has blessed me. I have 13 years clean.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, so by the grace of God, that's what my dress represent. I haven't smoked no crack, drunk no beer, or combed my hair in 13 years. Now, I do go once a month and let them cover up my wisdom.
Okay.
Because you don't let everybody know everything.
Right.
You understand me? But God has blessed me. I am the proud author of 3 books.
Wow, amazing.
From Under a Bridge, book 1. From Under a Bridge, book 2. And my third one is called And They Laugh. Okay.
Oh, my.
I lived under a bridge in the backseat of my car, which was a 1993 Dynasty, due to my drug habit. So book 1 tells you what led me to smoking crack. And it's 2 subjects that we don't like to talk about.
Okay.
That's molestation
Oh, my.
and mental illness.
Yes.
And so I went through all that.
My.
So I talk about that in the books. The books are not to hurt nobody. You know, I want everybody to realize that the books are not to hurt nobody. It's to
Okay.
help somebody.
I see.
Okay. Because God delivered me from my addiction. So I feel like my purpose in life is to help somebody else.
I love that.
We're supposed to, when God brings us out, you know, a lot of people, when they come out of whatever they've been into, they sit back. We're supposed to help the next person out.
Okay,
So
that's
that's what
right.
I'm doing with these books. It's not easy telling your testimony. It's not easy, you know, being so transparent because,
Okay.
you know, you have a lot of people that turn their nose up to
Oh,
you.
my.
You know what I'm saying? I'm still saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost.
Okay.
Okay. But God has blessed me to be able to tell my story. So each time He allows me to get on a platform, it's more and more healing for me.
I
You know what I'm
see.
saying? So in book 1, it tells you how I ended up on crack cocaine.
My. And let's talk about that. I know you said you almost spent 20 years,
Almost.
2 decades, on one of the most devastating drugs known to us,
Right.
crack cocaine. But you say the story didn't begin when you first started the drug. You say it began earlier in your childhood, and you say that was not addressed. That healing did not take place, and thus we've heard so many individuals, advocates, community leaders come on in the past and say, when something's not healed and it remains broken, Blossom, we tend to just put a Band-Aid or tape on it and it worsens
and that's
breaks.
what it is. So you're going to have to take that Band-Aid off so that it can be healed.
Okay.
So when God allowed me to start sharing my testimony, because you couldn't go to school and talk about molestation.
Okay.
Not when I was coming up, because I just turned 50 years young in January.
wow.
Young.
Congratulations.
Not old, young.
That's right.
Okay. But you couldn't talk about that kind of stuff
Okay.
coming up. So God bless me, I'm able to talk about it now. You know what I'm saying?
Beautiful.
When you see somebody that's on drugs or alcoholic, it's something that's deep within. It's just like I tell a lot of people, you can live in the most prettiest house there is in the
Yes.
neighborhood, but when you see the branches and the leaves, it makes that house look so
Okay.
ugly. And mine was being molested.
I see.
You couldn't talk about that, so you whatever happened in the house, it stayed in the house,
All
okay?
right.
So also in book 1, it talks about how I got pregnant at an early age, okay? It also talks about how I got married at an early age. I was always looking for love all in the wrong places.
Okay.
Because when your childhood is snatched from you, you lose a lot.
Yes.
You know, that movie on Miracle on 34th Street, you know how the little child sitting up in the Santa Claus lap? Well, automatically mine says, get out of his lap because he's going to touch you.
Oh, my.
You know, that's the, but you have to renew your mind. You have to.
Yes.
You have to. If you think better, you're going to do better.
Oh.
Okay?
And you talk about renewing. I know in your book, and you've written 3 phenomenal books
God be
that are very
glory.
transparent, very transforming, and life-saving.
Amen.
For not just you, but others who have read it as well.
Right.
You said something very bold and daring that I found fascinating, and yet I know it was blessed by God. You said you forgave
You have
your
to.
abuser.
You know what? God had to teach me that. People don't realize you have to ask God to help you.
I see.
God taught me how to forgive my abuser.
Okay.
But then he also had to teach me how to forgive myself because I wasn't perfect
Okay,
at that.
powerful.
I wasn't perfect. I tell a lot of people I was an unfit mother. I maybe didn't sexually or physically abuse my boys, but mentally I
Okay.
put them through abuse.
Okay.
So God had to teach me to forgive myself. If I forgive you, then you need to forgive yourself. So, and that helps me with staying clean and sober too.
Yes.
Now the memories
Beautiful.
are still going to come back.
Okay.
But I don't have to go back and get high off of it. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
How I left my kids with somebody else. You know what I'm saying? How I used to steal. You know, and how I did this. I did a lot of things out there that I wasn't raised
Okay.
to do. You know what I'm saying? But nobody can throw my past back in my face. Okay, we're on another page now.
That's right.
Okay. Yes, I did that, but let's not get it twisted. Okay. You know, because you can't allow people to keep coming to you and touching you. Spiritually molesting you.
yes.
You understand what I'm saying? We
Yes.
have a lot of people that just come and say anything to you. And I was that type of person. I received anything you said.
Oh, my.
We're Christians, but he don't want us to be a mat,
Okay.
walk off, let people just walk all over you. You know what I'm saying? My past is my past.
Yes.
So let's carry on to the next page now.
You shared something powerful. You said you forgave the abuser, but you also had to forgive yourself.
Right.
I want to talk about that right now because there may be someone who is 50 years young.
That's right. You
who
got
is
it.
sitting watching us right now on this Veterans Day weekend, and they're saying, okay, I can make peace with what he or she did to me, maybe mama, maybe even daddy, right? But to forgive myself, sometimes we find that can be a harder journey because we're holding the guilt in and saying, I don't deserve this salvation. But Blossom, I know you know as well as we know that God's salvation is open to all of us.
To all of us, if you want it.
Okay.
You gotta want it. You know what I'm saying? And I used to try to get clean and sober for so many reasons, so many people, so many things, but
Yes.
until I wanted it for Blossom.
Ooh, powerful.
You got to want it for yourself because I
Breakthrough.
used to have people talk to me till they was blue in the face. I didn't want it.
Oh.
But you know what? God taught me to stop defending and proving.
Okay.
For 19 years, I was
Powerful.
trying to defend and prove that this happened to me.
Yes.
I was one of them crying drunks. I get drunk, I just cry, you know. So they didn't
Okay.
want to, you know how people look out the window and say, oh, here comes so-and-so. I was that type of drunk and a type of addict. When they heard I was coming, they said, oh, Lord, here come Blossom. They would pick their whole house up and move. Because I just had so much anger. And I'm just being honest
Yes,
about it. I can tell the
yes.
truth about Blossom.
Yes.
I had so much anger inside till people didn't want to be around me. I didn't want to be around myself at times.
Oh,
you know what
my.
I'm saying?
And rightly so, rightly so. My goodness.
And you know what? What I talk about in these books, you don't have to cuss and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The same way I'm speaking now is
Yes.
the same way my books read. Because you have to reach people where they're at.
I love that.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you try to be so high and mighty and use them big words, some of them I can't spell, some of them I don't know the meaning. So I'm going to talk to you the way.
That's right.
So
That's right. I
when you
love
can
that.
be real with yourself, you can be real with anybody else.
Correct.
And sit amongst anybody and don't be ashamed
That's
about
right.
it, you know? So in book number 2, I talk about how I went to prison. My prison number is
Okay.
589931. I had that number for the rest of my life, just not a function number.
Yes.
How God delivered me from homosexual spirit. Because I had been abused as a child and raped by men, and just going from person to person, I thought going with a woman was better. But I speak about that because that spirit is taking over rapidly. We had to let people know you're not born like that. That's a choice of lifestyle. In the books, I also talk about how I had a man to leave me for another man. How I tell everything because you know you have
Transparent.
You have to. That's the only way I stay clean and sober today.
Wow.
That's the only way I stay clean and sober.
And I know you spoke about at the top of the segment, you were homeless
Oh, yeah.
for a number of years, and you have kept with you the shoes, the purse and the shirt. Right now, if you look at the B-roll footage for our viewers at home right now, we can actually see the purse, the shirt, and also the shoes that Blossom Rogers wore when she was homeless. If we can see those in a few seconds, I know individuals can see it firsthand. You keep those, and I want to ask why.
First of all, I couldn't give them away. If you see what they look like, who want them? But I was so proud of, I'm telling you, I was so proud of that shirt, girl, because I had came into a lump sum of money.
Okay.
And so I went to the store and I bought that shirt.
Yes.
I had to been high when I bought it, but you know. And the shoes, I had the shoes. I went to Payless and I bought them shoes.
Okay.
I was so proud of them shoes and the purse, and I could not give them things away. Sitting in a crack house. And I remember I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. You got to be like that. You got to want something different. I don't want to die and have never lived. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to ever die or ever be in a nursing home said I wish I could, I would have.
My mind.
So every chance God give me the same energy I had when I was smoking crack, asking dope boys, can I do this, do that, is the same way I do now when it comes to people's TV show. Can I come on your show and tell my story?
Okay.
So I'm still a hustler, but I'm hustling for God now.
I see.
You understand?
I love that.
So you just changing. I just changed my partner. I still love to laugh and have a good time because you know,
obvious,
I'm saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost, but you still can have a good time.
That's right.
Stop making it seem like we can't laugh. You know what? I'm nappy-headed by choice, not by force. Okay. I don't care what people say. I used to cry when they called me baby bubble lips when I was coming up because I had large lips. Now people are going to get their lips blowed up.
Okay.
I don't have to do that. I just put lipstick on and carry on. You know what I'm saying? So when you can love yourself, that's all that matters. But see, I used to always look for love.
Okay.
So love yourself. Tell yourself you look good. Take yourself out to eat. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You got to live because life is not. Tomorrow's not promised to you.
Absolutely.
It's not.
And what we want to ask you shared something with us in terms of it being generational, the molestation, the keeping it in, the holding it in an effort to help someone or anyone who's watching now, hearing your story. What advice do you have for that child, male, female, anyone who is in that situation, as well as the adults in these situations? Because in a lot of instances, there's an adult who is aware of what's going on.
Okay.
If they haven't dealt with their own issue, they're not going to be able to help nobody else. You know what I'm saying? It's the blind leading the blind, okay? Now, one thing I want you to know, and I'm not taking up for my abusers, a hurt person hurts another person.
Yes.
They had to have went through something in order to inflict that on me. You know what I'm saying? You just didn't wake up saying, I want to abuse a child. Just like I didn't wake up, I want to be a crackhead.
Okay.
So you have to find out what the root is. And once you get to the root, then you can deal with it. But if you're not willing to deal with it, if you still want to sit on it and still deny it, you're still in bondage. I'm free. I'm free. And I tell a lot of people, God don't bless mess. If I was lying about anything, he would not continue to open up doors for me to tell my testimony. You know what I'm saying? So it's to tell your story is helping you, and it's most of all helping myself. I don't mind sharing my story because each time I share my story, it's more and more healing. More and more. I used to consider the word molestation without going getting high. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I thank God for deliverance.
Wow. I mean, there's power in your testimony. There are countless men and women that have gone through that. They're just not as transparent. And I do respect the right of individuals. I think it's a personal choice. But I am suspecting that with your sincere testimony, with you being so transparent, someone is being encouraged right now.
I pray to
someone is being inspired, I know, watching Atlanta Live to say, if Blossom can have been healed from the brokenness of things, a lot of it was not in her control. Some things later was actually in her control. But look where she is today, a confident, achieved, and popular author and inspirational speaker on a regional national program talking about what she's been through to inspire others. I know someone right now is listening and they are watching knowing that. Give them a little bit of hope, a little bit of wisdom to say, if Blossom did it, it may be different, but they can do it too.
You got to want it for yourself. You got to want it for yourself. I can't stress that enough. And I tell a lot of people, you can blossom from under a bridge.
Okay.
Now, your bridge may not have been my bridge.
Yes.
We have different kind of bridges. You have verbal abuse.
Okay.
You have You have so many
Emotional,
things. Yeah,
neglect.
you got so many things, but don't let it keep you under.
Oh, wow.
Come from under that bridge, drive over the bridge, still dreams. You can accomplish who would have thought 13 years ago that I've been sitting here in Atlanta on a Friday night? I'd have been somewhere smoking crack cocaine.
Okay.
If I wouldn't have dealt with my situation. And I was writing God a letter in the crack house. Wow. I was writing and taking a hit of crack. People was like, you ain't throw the crack away? No, I hustled for that crack. I wasn't finna throw it away. But I was writing him and letting him know, because I had been saved and I backslid. And you know what? You have a lot of people talking about when I found Jesus. Jesus wasn't lost. I was the one that was lost.
Okay.
But he reached down. Jesus wasn't lost.
Wow.
You know,
I mean, this is such a powerful conversation and testimony. I don't want our viewers to miss the opportunity to know where they can go for more information about your book and your testimony, or perhaps reach out to you personally.
Well, girl, I like to talk. They can reach me on Facebook at Blossom Rogers. Check out my website.
Yes.
blossomrogers.weebly.com.
Oh, I love it. Blossom Rogers, you're an inspiration to all of us. Speaking of all of us, don't leave us. We're going to be right back. The first hour of Atlanta Live is done, but we have more live music and personal testimonies. You're watching Atlanta Live. Happy Veterans Day weekend. Welcome back to the second hour of Atlanta Live, featured right here on WATC TV channel 57. It's Veterans Day weekend, and certainly I'm Shana Thornton, and also Shawn Mitchell's my co-host, and we certainly want to salute and honor those who have served in our armed forces. Thank you for all of your sacrifice. Those were personal, professional as well, so thank you. Some are fallen soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice, and Shawn, may we never forget their service to our nation, allowing us to have freedoms here in 2017.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So very thankful for their service. And tonight on Atlanta Live, we already had a great first hour of personal testimonies that encouraged, that motivated you and inspired you. And this second half, the next 30 minutes, is no exception. We're going to keep it going with live music as well as some testimonies that you're going to love. Our next guest that's going to talk with us, it's a couple, a duo, based in the Atlanta metro area, and they're going to talk about marriage and bringing couples that may be individuals starting off, but hopefully bringing them together, uniting. And they're also going to talk about the different seasons of relationships and marriage.
Absolutely. Very, very interesting couple. They have a lot to share.
Oh, they do. And they have been married for nearly a quarter of a century. So they have a lot of wisdom to share with us as well. You're going to love them. Very pleasant couple, again, based here in the Atlanta metropolitan area. But we have music with us, and you heard them in the first hour, Zack, Landry, and PhaZe. And the music was phenomenal. It inspired. And actually speaking with the band leader, he shared that he's been singing since he was a small child.
He's excellent. The entire band is exceptional.
Oh, they were. I mean, they were just awesome. I mean, I love how the spectrum of the vocals from soprano to alto. And Shawn, the funny thing is, I fit nowhere in between any of that.
Nor do I. That's why we're going to listen to them.
You know, maybe I should have asked for some voice lessons for them. I mean, it's always a gift to have. And the gifts are certainly spotlighted here on Atlanta Live. If it's music or if it's to inspiration of talk or preaching, we're going to highlight that. But we're going to go back and let Zack Landry tell us more through his music about his special gift. And the musical track this time is Take Over. Take Over.
Y'all ready? Oh, oh, oh. Let me sing it. Oh, oh, oh. Yep. Oh, sing it. Oh, oh, oh. Let's go to the verse. Oh, we worship you. We reverence you. Adore your name. Magnify your name. So we worship you. We reverence you. Adore your name. Magnify your name. Let me sing it. Let's sit up, feel that. Say let's do that verse one more time. So we worship you. So we reverence you. Adore your name. Magnify your name. As I lift my hands as a sign of surrenderance unto you, that only means in you I trust, and I give my all to you. As I bow down and I pray to you, oh matchless King, that is the only way I know how to express the way I feel about. We need you right now, Lord. We're ready. So come on and take over. So we need you right now, Lord. We're ready. So come on and take over. Take it out. So we need you right now, Lord. We're ready.
the word, Shawn. What powerful music. What a ministry there. Well, speaking of a ministry, we are so excited to have a beautiful duo with us. They're based here in the Atlanta metropolitan area. We're talking about Bishop Michael and Lady Brenda Strickland. Welcome to Atlanta Live.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Honored to have you all on. I mean, so I know you have lots of different platforms with your ministry and Victory Tabernacle Church International based in the McDonough area. One of the things I know, Bishop, that is near and dear to your heart is the family, okay? The family unit. And you and your wife believe that starts with the couple, mom and dad. Explain how important that is and how they should have harmony and unity for everything else to trickle down properly.
Well, I want to say that we are grateful to be here, number one. But we do believe that when the Bible speaks of, and they shall leave their mother and their father, and the two shall become one flesh. So it's important for us to be on one accord. We have three beautiful daughters. Well, I still call them my little girls, but they're good and grown. And I have to remind them of that often, that they're good and grown. But for us, the family unit, and one of the things that I thought I was old-fashioned was almost 3 times a week when our girls were growing, and even now when they're home, we always spend the time together around the dinner table.
Oh, wow. That's important.
Last Christmas, my wife had us to write notes to each other, which I thought was such a powerful Christmas gift. And my youngest daughter, who put in her writing was that the thing that she loves most is the time that we spend together as a family. It's mandatory for me. It is something that is not an option for them. It is something that's not an option for us.
Absolutely.
We have such wonderful families that we're connected to. But for us, we have to develop what we want to have in our own homes. And that spending time together, it's priceless. It is something that you can never buy. It's something that you can never recap, because the times we spend together are such great times. We laugh a lot, we love a lot, but we also talk a lot about some very difficult things that I think families should talk about as our girls are transitioning from my little girls. My mom and my wife's mom taught us that our girls move from our laps to our hearts.
Powerful. Absolutely.
And so now they're in our hearts, and so as they're growing, and they do what girls do. You know, they're girls, and so we allow that. But the family time for us is most important. But as a couple, my girls have to know that we have to spend our quality time together as well.
That's important as well.
And they see us spending that time together. And I want to say to all couples out there, your children are here for a moment with you. They get 18 and then they decide to do their own thing. And they have that right.
And they did. That's true. We did.
So we didn't want to find ourselves growing gracefully together and not know each other.
Oh, wow.
I didn't want to spend those years of raising them, those years of us imparting into them, those years of watching them become the young ladies that they are. And then when we got to this phase, I'm like, girl, that's what you do? I didn't want to do that. I'm like, girl, that's how you have it. So I didn't want to do that. And so we make the time. It's priority for us that we spend time together, that we make that time very important. It's intentional, and it's priority. And we make sure that it takes place. On top of ministry.
Because you're busy. Yes. I mean, you both are busy. I want to ask you this, Lady Brenda, because you obviously his wife, beautiful inside and out. There's a mom listening to you right now, sitting in Atlanta, and she's saying everything the bishop's saying is true. But as the mother, there's a guilt part of me that says, but if I'm not spending every single moment with my child, somehow I may not be a great mom. Help that young lady or that middle-aged woman through that, because you know there are a lot of moms who do feel that way.
I think that mom, the first thing you need to understand that the kids are like whipped cream on top. But the marriage is number one. Oh, wow. And the children is just an additive. And a lot of times we switch that thing around as moms, and we think that the children are most important. However, they're just an additive to the family, and we are to give them, we are to love them, yes, give them what they need. And however, your husband is still number one.
She still knows how to make me smile.
That is so special. Absolutely.
I mean, that's important.
Absolutely.
But Bishop, how important is it that our children, and your family, but all families throughout the United States, see good examples of that? Because, I mean, it's done for the right reasons, but I think some things that we get remiss about in society today is saying our children need to see us loving and caring. And also, I'm going to pose this, even when the challenges and the hard times come up, for them to see that we're able to push through them. And not only does that perhaps teach them about a relationship and marriage later, but also dynamics on a job, if you're personal in your life, whatever you're going through, that we can push through it. How important is that example to be set?
I'll go this route. One of the things that we did back in 2005, I believe, I'm an educator by profession.
Okay.
And then in that season, the Lord instructed me to leave my job.
Oh, wow.
Okay, my girls were of age.
Okay.
And I called them all together. I said, listen, I'm getting ready to go into a new phase.
Yes.
And I'm going to need you to identify that as we go through this phase, you're going to see the hand of God at work.
Powerful.
You're going to see what your faith in action does. You're going to witness through what God is doing in our lives connected to your life. And so our family will become that unit where people will see that what your faith in God will do for you.
Oh, my.
So it's very important, as we are extremely busy, but we have to model this.
Okay.
And I tell my girls all the time, you weren't born into this private life. You were born into a public life.
Okay.
And it's not nothing you asked for.
That's true.
It's just what comes with what you came with.
That's true.
And everything my girls do, it's always, we have to make sure that we can identify what's going to go public.
Okay.
And what's going to remain private.
I see.
And we talk that through.
Boundaries.
We have to.
Okay.
Because everything that we do, we can do wonderful exploits for the kingdom and do one thing that people don't like, and that one thing will go viral.
That's true.
And all
That's
the
true.
wonderful things that God has done through our lives will just go for naught.
That's true.
So this whole concept of us being a model, we stand firm on our faith.
Oh, wow. That's
and my girls, and I love all of my girls. Yet my oldest daughter is our prayer.
Okay. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
She prays.
That's her gift.
Yes. My middle daughter has this heart for worship. Oh, she'll sing
Her
you
gift.
under. Yes. And my little girl.
He's a dad.
Yeah.
He's a dad.
She's 19, guys. She's my young prophet.
Oh, wow. Her gift.
Yes.
They all have their
They all.
gifts. You know, obviously you and your wife were blessed to have those examples set for you by your parents, right?
Yes.
You know there are lots of people watching us right now in Atlanta or watching us throughout the country. They didn't have that example. Maybe they had some parenting that wasn't ideal, not by their choice, right? Normal can sometimes become relative because it's what they see, it's what they know. What would be your words of wisdom, your advice for someone that's saying, I love the model that you have, Bishop, but I didn't come from that. And trying to create that in my household with my husband or wife has been challenging because I'm trying to make it, but it's uncomfortable, it's awkward, or perhaps there's a wife or a husband who's trying to make it, set those great examples like you all with their spouse, and that person's rejecting it. What do we need quality time for? I have my life, you have yours. We'll just come together and go to church on Sunday. You know there are people that grew up like this. Help us out. How do they find their self to where they need to be with God?
One of the things that we know about our marriage is that we had two distinct, different upbringings.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So my wife came in with one set of bringings.
Okay.
I came in with another set of bringings. And so when we got together, and I want to say this, and she knows we're good here. The first 7 years of our marriage were very tough.
Okay.
Because we were trying to become. We were trying to pull together.
I see.
And we were trying to bring in pieces that did not match.
Okay.
We were trying to build a puzzle, and nothing in the puzzle looked like the pieces were going to go together.
I see.
But what we decided, please catch that word, we decided that our house was going to be one that was going to be built on the principles of God.
Powerful.
And we were going to do the work that it takes.
I see.
Yes.
We were going to build the kind of family. We were going to build the kind of life. And we brought in from both of our upbringings, which is so key. I didn't come in to change her.
Okay.
She didn't come in to change me.
I see.
But we came in and we decided to work with what we had.
Okay.
To
Powerful.
build what God would have us to build. And so I would encourage every couple out, come in with, and we brought in a lot of baggage.
Okay, everybody does.
We brought in a lot of stuff. We brought in a lot of perspectives.
Okay.
We brought in a lot of, this is how I like to do it, this is how she likes to do it. But when we came together, we decided this is how we're going to do it together.
God be the glory.
We talked about that. And this is one of the things that's key for us. If we're going to conquer it, we've got to confront it.
Okay. Oh, wow. So, I mean, we've got to acknowledge it, right?
Absolutely.
And you know this. There are individuals, and not just even talking about marriage or relationships, but in their everyday doings, they don't want to confront things, right? I say they're non-confrontational. And I'm not talking about people that are getting volatile in public, but I'm saying if there's trouble, they'll shut down.
Yes.
If there's trouble, they flee, right? It's a flight or flight, and they're flying away. How dangerous is that for a marriage and a family unit?
I can say that, you know, we often relate our life as a process, but our marriage is a process that we have to go through different seasons. And you have to recognize what season you're in your marriage and understand that this is just part of our process together.
Wow. And some of those seasons, Shawn, I know, and you all spoke about this earlier in the green room, it can be winter, which is tough to get through. That's right. And things aren't growing.
It looks like it's dying.
Yes.
And oftentimes, I do this every single day. I work on the man I see in the mirror to make what we do together work.
Powerful.
So I have to identify my stuff. I have to identify, and I was a very, and that's past tense. Very stubborn person. I was very into me.
I see.
So much into me that my first check I got as a teacher, I spent most of that check by permission of my mom on shoes.
I see.
I was selfish.
I see.
And so when I got married, I had to say, hey, you get yours. You work, do yours. Do you, I'm going to do me. But I had to quickly learn. I had to quickly learn. Or should I say there was a quick lesson.
A lesson in it.
There was a quick lesson. And I want to...
It's mine, it was mine, it's mine.
And I want to say to everybody in the marriage, we are and we should remain teachable by each other.
Absolutely.
Wow. And I think that's powerful because, one, I think so many men and women both can relate, but to be a man sitting in, and also leadership in the body of Christ, right? For you to be honest and say, I'm human. These are mistakes that I made. I think it only inspires other men and women to say, you know what? I'm at a point where I can also grow to allow that marriage and household to be better. Before we leave, I have to ask this very real dynamic. How dangerous or how helpful is it to compare one marriage to another? Because, you know, we can say, well, Shawn's marriage is like that, but mine is not like that, and then the Strickland's isn't like that. How dangerous is that to get into comparing? Because, I mean, you know this, Lady Brenda, that a lot of times women and men, we tend to do that. He got you what for your birthday? And then we somehow sort of eternalize those thoughts about, well, does mine really love me?
Absolutely.
One of the things that going into this marriage, we talked about was that our love, if you turn around, it will evolve.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's right.
Love, spelled backwards without E-L-O-V-E, it evolves.
Yes.
And so as the love evolves, our becoming one does as well. We didn't say, yes, I do at the altar, and tomorrow we were all, no. It was work.
Yes.
And so going into this, we identified that we would grow in this. It is dangerous to compare the them to the us. So we have to walk our path.
Yes.
We have to ask God, what have you purposed us together for, that we might walk that place of purpose with passion to pursue it until we get to that place of destiny.
Wow.
So and we've gone through that seasons of comparing. And we've sat down and we've talked about that. I'm like, you know what? This is not for us. Just because they did it over there. So what we do is we learn to celebrate marriages.
That's right. Oh.
Yes.
We learn to celebrate them. You know, hey, y'all doing good, great. The Lord bless you. We're thankful.
Yes.
So we learn to celebrate marriages.
I love that.
And then what we do is we have this thing in our house where when God is in the neighborhood, we just put a shout on it and say ours is on the way.
Right. I love it. So you know it's a full circle, and we're happy and proud of others as well. You know, before we leave, we want to wrap up. Where can this conversation continue? I mean, because I know your church is very popular in Atlanta metropolitan, the McDonough area. Where can our viewers go for more information about the marriage ministry and the other platforms and ministries your church is doing? Victory Tabernacle Church International.
People can find us and follow us on Facebook at Victory Tabernacle Church International. Our website is www.igotthevictory.org.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
I love it. I got the victory. And not only are they a wonderful couple, again, Bishop Michael and Lady Brenda Strickland from McDonough, Georgia. Thank you for joining us. But you got to stay with us. We're not done yet because he's also an amazing vocalist. So he's going to sing very soon. But first, we have some beautiful scripture to leave you.
To trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, just to rest upon his promise, just to thus said the Lord. I'm so glad I've learned to trust him. Precious Jesus, he's my Savior and friend, and I know that he is with me, will be with me till the end. It's Jesus, Jesus, how I trust him. Him over and over. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus. Oh, for grace to trust him. Jesus, Jesus, there's just something about your name. like a fragrance after the rain. You're my Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Let all heaven and earth proclaim. Kings and kingdoms shall all pass away, but there's something about